is wondering about the grand scheme of things, and to help us out is Theodora Skipitares with her grand panorama. Welcome, Theodora.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
And we're delighted you're here and that you got your show done live at La Mama. It's been so long since we've seen one of your shows. And how do you come up with these amazing ideas? Like now you're doing Frederick Douglass and W.E.B. Du Bois, and the way you're using photographs, it's not your usual, huge paper mache puppet things. I mean, you have them because that's your signature, but I love the way you've incorporated things. And then the electronic faces at the end just blew me away. My mouth was a jaw under my mask.
There was a great biography written about Frederick Douglass by a historian named David Blight. He won a Pulitzer for it a couple of years back. So I read that, and then there came a book out about photography and Frederick Douglass, and I think it had most of the 160 pictures that Douglass had taken of himself. And I just thought it was fascinating. I never heard of it. And so I started researching into that. And then that, of course, led me to W.E.B. Du Bois, who did this enormous photographic project of 400 photos. So, and then it led me up to the contemporary moment. And you can't help but think about things like facial recognition and how our faces are shared, thousands of times now. So that's sort of the scope of it.
And you also brought up Sojourner Truth, and this guy I never heard of, Nathan Biddle. I love. What was it?
Nicholas Biddle. Yeah.
Nicholas Biddle. Yeah. I mean, I love the fact that you bring to our attention historical facts that we may not know that I love to find out about.
Well, I just found that the photograph became this interesting thread, and that Sojourner Truth was really savvy about how to use photographs. And she didn't look like a nice old lady, really, but she was kind of, with her handlers, she was kind of fashioned to be this appealing persona that could raise money for really important causes, So she was very savvy too, and Nicholas Biddle was too.
And really important and really famous in his time, because it seemed like there was, that ballad about him, and so many people were, like wanting to contribute to help him, and how did he get forgotten? What happened?
So many things have gotten forgotten. I mean, when you see all those photos of Du Bois looking at African Americans in 1900 that are chemists and teachers and ladies' society and jewelers, that got forgotten, So a lot has gotten forgotten.
I don't know why this thought occurred to me this morning, but it fits what we're talking about. As long as one person remembers, the memory's not gone.
I was amazed by the Du Bois photos, because I think it sounded like that your representation of these over life-size, huge, almost 3D representations was pretty close to what he wanted to do with them or what he did with them.
Yeah, well, I think in importance at the time, they were fairly small, but at the time, he took it to the Paris World's Fair, where it was really critically raved about, and in the US, it hardly gathered any attention at all. Lucky for us, these photos ended up in the Library of Congress, and you can get really high-res photos for free just by going to the website.
What made you decide to incorporate dance in it as well?
Oh, right. Oh, the two Frederick Douglass heads. Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know what I was thinking in the beginning. I knew there were some sort of almost columns or caryatids, but then I discovered that I think what I meant was that they are like the lions at the 42nd Street Library.
Oh, wow. I love it. That's so
because
perfect.
Douglas was always called the lion anyway. And I thought, oh, that's what they are.
Well, thank you very much. And it's just so nice. This to me feels like a return to normal, having you back at La Mama.
It really does. I know when we first planned the show several months ago with La Mama, we were thinking that we would have to do, distance seating and everything. And we didn't think a lot of people would be coming. So our house is very small. It's like 53 people or something, because I wanted the intimacy of that first part. But now I see we probably could have made it much bigger, because people, I think, are anxious to come back to see theater.
Hello, here we are with Lisa Ramaci to finally talk about Six. Six succinctly tells the tale of the 6 wives of Henry VIII, who are famous for being divorced, beheaded, died, divorced, beheaded, survived. Each of the queen gets to sing her plight with irresistible tunes by Toby Marlowe and Lucy Moss, costumed sexily and regally by Gabriella Slade.
It's about an hour and 20 minutes long, and if you've ever wanted to go to a Tudor English rock concert, this is the closest you're going to get. It is a very high energy show. The women were all spectacular. Their costumes were a combination of Hans Holbein and Road Warrior, which is, as far as I'm concerned, perfect. All of the songs were extremely well written. They were extremely witty. Historically, it was probably about 75% accurate, which is pretty good for something like that. There were a few things thrown in there for dramatic effect. And I do know that I remember in the band, there was one guy in the band who was constantly being sort of looked down upon by all the other women. It was fabulous. I mean, really, the show started out with a lot of young women in the audience screaming, and I thought, wait, is this the Ed Sullivan Theater in 1964? What's going on? But it was basically young women screaming because they were about to see this great show. It's high energy, it's well written, it's well performed, the singing is great, the costumes are great. I recommend it highly.
Yeah, oh, the songs. I mean, I've never done this after a musical. I went and found the entire playlist on YouTube, and I played it every single day. I mean, this one song, sorry, not sorry. Da, da, da,
Don't sing,
da.
Eva. Don't sing.
That's the trouble with having my reviewer right here in the room with me, who knows me so well. But I love the music. It's so catchy. I mean, Alfie was obsessed with the show before it even came on. He loved it so much, he didn't even wait to see it with me. So I was able to bring Lisa. He had to go see it. He was so anxious to see it. It's just a one, and even the vertigo did not bother me. I didn't care at this point because I loved it so much. It really is, it's a rock concert with great music, great acting, great story, and it'll even move you. Catherine Howard, her song will just bring you to tears, and it's just so clever the way it's done with a sound effect. So I strongly recommend Six. Six gets a 10. Lynn Nottage has taken her esteemed play, Intimate Apparel, and with Ricky Ian Gorn's music, has turned it into a first-rate opera directed by Bartlett Sher. Poor Esther has been slaving away for 18 years sewing beautiful intimate garments for rich people like the unhappy Mrs. Van Buren and others in order to save up enough for her own beauty shop. Her boss, Mrs. Dixon, is very motherly towards her and wishes she would join the festivities as another girl is about to get married. Mrs. Dixon encourages Esther to marry Mr. Charles, but all her focus is on that beauty shop of hers. The only pleasure she gets out of life is going to the Orthodox Jewish Mr. Mark's fabric shop. He considers her his favorite customer as she loves fabric and appreciates it as much as he does. He saves the best for her to run her fingers through. Everything changes when she receives a letter from George Armstrong, a friend of a friend from her church working on the Panama Canal. One problem, Esther can't read or write. So Mrs. Van Buren and Mrs. Dixon take great pleasure in composing letters and reading the correspondence to her. Esther confides in her friend Mamie, a good time gal, that she finally at 35 has a beau. What will become of Esther? She obviously has feelings towards Mr. Marks and he towards her, but the difference in their religion and race in 1907 is problematic. There is George, who she has never met, but he sends her the most thoughtful, lovely letters, and she isn't getting any younger, as everyone likes to remind her. She could always just stay focused on her beauty shop and be alone as her third option. Such are the strong feelings the characters elicit that I found myself wanting to go on stage and give advice. And you know, I don't like opera, and I did not like his Fitzy Contini opera at all. It was all one note, but this is very melodic, and the plot has more substance as it was quite relatable. Everyone has goals, dreams, and hidden desires to be with someone who loves them back. And Bartlett Sure is the kind of director because he always serves the plot and character and not his own agenda. He brings out the best in all aspects, and this gets a major happy face. And you only got till February 27th to catch this, and I strongly recommend that you do. Mark and I lately have seen a couple plays with rather bizarre ways to end racism. They're both satires too, I should say.
At Playwrights Horizon, you could see Tambo and Bones, written by Dave Harris, and it features stereotyped minstrel show characters, and Tambo is the one who either wants to sleep or later wants to help people, while Bones is generally concerned with material wealth. We first have a scene that looks like it's on a very artificial plantation. Then there's this wonderful like rap concert where Bones is like the gangster rapper who's out for big bucks, while Tambo wants to do political lyrics to save the world. And then there's a third section, which is set in the future after some race war eliminated white people, and they're only represented as these kind of robot figures that are hilarious. I found the satire a bit too snide for me to really enjoy everything, but it was so well acted and directed and so exciting that I could only give it a happy face minus. So, and I'm sure Eva loved it a lot too.
Oh, yes. I mean, how do you solve a problem like racism? Lisa's not here, so I can say, don't think about it and sleep under a cardboard tree. Accumulate money and power so that you are in control of events. Do you try to educate the masses? And if that fails, just obliterate them. And just like Jackie Cibola's jury's Fairview, this mixes ridiculously amusing scenes that gets the audience all relaxed and laughing, but finally hitting them with the brutal truth. Fairview is more visceral, but it drives home that racism really is an unsolvable problem. W. Davis as Tambo almost got seduced by Quarters, but his idealism won out. He was very appealing in his quest to rest. And Tyler Fauntleroy as Bones is more realistic, pursuing money, as without money, you are invisible and at the mercy of others. And I did have trouble following the N-word definition for the three types of people and got mixed up with which was which. But other than that, this was a wickedly good play, and I'm giving it a happy face -2. And now for a musical solution to the racism problem with Black No More. Take it away, Mark.
It's presented by the New Group, and it's from a 1931 novel. And it has a Black scientist from Howard University developing this way based on the medical condition vitiligo, where Black people have developed like white spots on their body, to transform Black people into completely white looking people. And the first person to take advantage of this new cure is Max, who's kind of like a playboy figure in Harlem who becomes captivated by this white woman from the South, Helen, who was slumming in a nightclub. And he becomes white and figures he can better transform himself into a rich person by going south and maybe find Helen there as well. And he does. First, he has trouble fitting in exactly with either Black or white groups, but later he's adopted by this reverend who is actually Helen's father, who has this KKK-like group, sort of Knights of Nordica. And because Max understands Blacks so well, he's able to figure out a way of manipulating them and presenting that to the Reverend.
By turning everyone against science. He makes them all anti-science.
Yes, and pro like faith. And the Reverend sort of gives him to his daughter Helen, and this enrages the Reverend's son, who's the most blatant racist of all and very suspicious of Max. And you're wondering, how will things work out? Will Max ever really be successful, or will he repent for, the sin of changing his color and betraying his people? Friends of his from Harlem, a woman Bunny and a guy Agamemnon, who's sort of a Black nationalist, go down south to try to see if they could convince him to change his ways. And also Lillias White gets to play the wonderful Sisteretta, who is like C.J. Walker, a woman who made a big fortune out of hair straightening and bleaching techniques. And the device of changing Blacks completely is really bad for her business, as well as bad for the soul of Harlem.
Well, I gotta say, Dr. Crookman, the guy that invented that machine, he reminded me of Zoltan and Big. He grants this fantastical wish where Max, just like Josh and Big, felt that the only way to be in control of their lives was to be white or big. And you got to beware of answered prayers. You might change physically, but you're still the same person inside. And how do you reconcile that? And Dr. Crookman, aptly named, deceptively presents himself as a person who thinks he can end the race war and bring peace and harmony by eliminating the Black man altogether and be one happy race. But what are his ulterior motives? Beyond the powerful satire, this is a true love story. Max and Helen trying to transcend the hate around them, but ultimately fail because they are not honest with each other. And if Max had just confided in Helen his true self, the outcome may have been different. Once one finally gets to be person in control, it can be more seductive than true love. How does one pursuing love end up endorsing hate? It isn't skin color, religion, or anything else that is a problem, but people's desire to hate the other, which is the driving message of this musical. Not to mention that the whites feel superior to everyone and want to keep everyone in their place. The performers were all commanding singers and actors that I was riveted on them, and sometimes missed the ensemble dancing to Bill T. Jones choreography in the background. There was so much to pay attention to in this potent musical, and I give it a happy face.
Really loved the choreography. It was so inventive, and really, especially the scene to show where Max was not quite fitting in, where he's first trying to dance with the group of white Southerners and later trying to dance along with the group of Black Southerners. And he can sort of do the steps, but he doesn't quite make it. And it shows how this transformation really left him in a kind of nowhere position where his identity was really not what it should be. But anyway, it's a wonderful show, and I'm sure everyone would enjoy it.
Yeah, so we've got 3 great shows for you to go ponder upon and see. Intimate Apparel, Black No More, and Tambo and Bone. I have seen a couple of very different plays at 59 East 59th Street recently. I'm going to start with the more fun one, which is Barococo from Happenstance Theater. And in this one, they have the Happenstance Theater Ensemble have created what I think, instead of being called Barococo, it should be called Barococo Waiting for Godot. A group of aristocrats are killing time while waiting to be killed. They play games like charades, flirt outrageously, write letters, eat imaginary feasts, and even have duels. Amidst the fun, they glance nervously towards the door. We should be despising these useless appendages of society, but there is something so winning in their desperate manner to remain positive and cheerful. Sabrina Selma Mandel and Nancy Melendez did an exquisite job with the costumes and wigs that I felt transported back to the 18th century. I thoroughly enjoyed the antics they got up to. I even felt sorry for them. They humanized their cartoonish behavior. There was something noble about these nobilities. I was crazy for this Barococo puff piece. Happy Face and more on Facebook. Savant's First Down is about standing up for what you believe in, no matter the consequences. On the eve of the Super Bowl, quarterback George Berry has decided to let the world know that he is a Muslim by praying during the national anthem. His coach, agent, and longtime college friend, and even his own mother try to talk him out of it. Will they get through to him, or will he indeed commit career suicide? Many valid points were made on each side. I kept vacillating between do it and don't do it. That is because the cast was so exceptional that I kept getting swayed back and forth. In this climate of all minorities wanting to be heard and to stop the hate already, it was nice to hear from a different group that has been vilified since 9/11. Happy Face and more on Facebook. In case you don't know the story, Shakespeare's Merchant of Venice is about Jewish Shylock wanting a pound of anti-Semitic Antonio's flesh if Antonio defaults on his loan made to help out his friend Bassanio win Portia. Portia can only get a husband by her dad's bizarre wishes in the will, where the suitor has to choose from a gold, silver, and lead casket. If he chooses wrong, he can never get married. Impossible and ludicrous demands are made. Loves and friendships are tested. And in this version, nobody comes out a winner. I have never seen so many unhappy people in the end of a show. And I gotta tell you, I was just very unhappy audience member. Now, to address the elephant in the room. In the rush for diverse casting, I've noticed that sometimes the Jewish person is left out. Spoiler alert here in case you don't know the ending of Merchant of Venice. It is ironic that the despised Jew is only somewhat tolerable if he gives up his religion. And with his casting, his very identity is taken away. Don't get me wrong, I adore John Douglas Thompson as one of my favorite actors. And when it comes to Shakespeare, he is unparalleled. I mean, the man's a brilliant actor. There is no doubt about that. But this role should only be played by a Jew, as it is a quintessentially a Jewish role. I was just as dismayed when Laurence Olivier, the greatest Shakespearean actor of his generation, put on blackface to play Othello. Some roles are very specific and need to be played specifically by them. I have enough trouble watching this play without the added hurt of feeling doubly erased that a Jewish person isn't good enough to play his own role written for him. We are told Jews don't matter with this casting. Edward Einhorn, a previous guest on this show, has written a very thoughtful article about this sudden rise in casting going against the Jewish actor. It expresses better what I feel that I have been unable to articulate lately. We are all afraid to speak up because of the deliberate misunderstandings and being vilified. If a Jewish role is in a play, don't we deserve to play it? If you stick us up in synagogues, do we not bleed? It was a Muslim in First Down that gave me the courage to finally speak up. What will it take for you to do that? There'll be more of the review itself on Facebook for Merchant of Venice, but I just had to say what I needed to say. So I'm going to give this Merchant of Venice an unhappy face. In solidarity with all the characters in the play, they all ended up with an unhappy face. And now for that man about Theater Town, Jay Michaels with his indie influencers to tell us even more goodies to see this coming weeks.
Greetings, this is Jay Michaels. I'm your indie influencer here on High Drama. The original groundbreaking off-Broadway movement, which began in the 1950s and reached its zenith in the 1980s, opened the door to a kind of theater that eventually changed the tenor of theater in general, including Broadway. As we emerge from this pandemic, we see this movement clearly in some powerhouse, unapologetic, envelope-pushing productions that are coming your way before the summer. Right now, currently at the American Theater of Actors is Mandela. It tells the story of one of the greatest leaders of recent time with details never before heard. Tickets are still on sale. This is a production that was actually endorsed by our new mayor of New York. After that, Laurie Ray Wah brings two family dramas by playwright Norma Mortimer about the afterlife, or shall we say after death, or shall we say those that stay around after a loved one passes. This too is at the ATA. Joe Moe kicks open the last closet door to unleash the smell of toxic masculinity in Deny We Were as part of the Fresh Fruit Festival's Return to Life New Works Festival. Sammy the songwriter enlists the perfect ally in the fight against his abusive father, his 10-year-old self. Learn all about that in Arnie Roman's stunning new musical, Surviving the Rosenthals, making its New York premiere and its world premiere this May. And for those of you who follow high drama, as well you should, you'll hear the second half of our stunning interview with the anonymous playwright of Tiananmen Requiem, the play that the Chinese government does not want you to see. Orson Welles once said that theater, good theater, pisses off all the right people. Welcome back, pissers. This is Jay Michaels. This is Indie Influencer. And this is High Drama.
Our next show on March 12th, I want to talk about a couple plays where you can read the view first on Facebook, but I just want to bring them to your attention first. Hansel Jung's At Soho Rep Wolf play is an incredibly intelligent play which raises many issues on family and toxic masculinity, and it's so good. I so strongly recommend it. And plays and for the Women in Theater Festival, the 7th annual Women in Theaters Festival, the hybrid two-hander, they have plays ranging about stepping back into a theater, memorial infused with language play about memory, agoraphobic piano teacher saying bye to her only student heading for college, a show about girl power, and budding romance over lost key. It's 50 minutes with 5 brilliant 10-minute plays. And an evening with Barry Manilow and Bruce Sussman to talk about harmony that's coming up next at Folksbiene Yiddish Theater. Anyway, see you next show, March 12th. There's so much going on. Just go to the theater.